show them?
Okay. It doesn't matter. They can't even make them incorrectly yet. First thing first, right? That's right. Incorrect. So first you love it.
All right. Now, what this is called a seated lid or a bowl lid. There's a lot of different terms for this kind of thing, but this is, you're going to throw the lid right side up. It's just going to sit inside the form like that. But this is also how you do the handle and the bowl-shaped lid all at the same time. Okay? How you do that is you look at the pot that you have, and you can kind of determine on how much clay you'll need by just doing a quick visual measurement. Kind of just seeing what here, okay, I probably need, successfully, I probably need about this much clay right there. Or something about that wide.
Including the handle?
Including the handle. So, what you do is you center up that top a little bit right there.
But then it won't be 10 pounds.
That's right. Now you can still have some excess clay at the base. You want to have to be able to trim this on the bottom. You want it to be supported. But don't worry too much about how much clay you have left over at the bottom, because you'll be cutting that off anyway. So, if I measured about right here, now I have a caliper that's an absolute measurement to the inside portion of the outside of the interior. That's a mouthful. But when this thing comes out like this, it's the inside measurement right here. Not the outside of the form like we were measuring another time. It's the actual thing.
Widest.
That's right, the widest point of the lip that's curled out. Now this receiver right here is, say, your average jar, your average pot, that kind of thing, and you flare it out, and we're going to measure out this part, and the lid is actually going to sit like a bowl inside there. Now there's a couple of different ways of doing this. You can have the same type of lid.
So it's going to be a concave one, not a... Okay.
All right, that's right. It's a concave one. It's seated. It sits inside. Now, that does take up a little bit of volume, so you don't really want to have it too bowly like this. You just kind of want it like a little bit like this. So it just sits in there, and the bottom of the lid does not go any deeper than the transition from the body and the shoulder into the lip. So it's just going to be just kind of this really shallow bowl that's going to sit right here. You want to make it a little bit wider, because you'll be able to trim that and cut that back, and it will look perfect.
How large can you make one of these? I'm thinking of my friend who likes to make big casseroles with flat lids that always collapse.
I wouldn't go much bigger than, let's say, almost this size. Even this size, I would say you're treading on very thin ice.
Okay. Because what, it warps? It cracks?
Yeah. Plus all movement downward. So if you have something that is held up on the edges and there's a lot of weight in the center like this, it's going to want to sag into your pot a little bit, and then the insides will fold down.
And the weight of the handle doesn't help.
And the weight of the handle doesn't help. Now, the handle we'll talk about in a second. There's different ways of dealing with the handle. But anyway, how you make the handle and the bowl all by itself is that when you open up, you just spread your thumbs apart. Okay, and when you push down into the clay, a little column of clay will go in the center, and you squeeze it down, and then you'll be able to make your bowl all in one movement. So it just looks like this. You go ahead and you just push the clay down like that. See how I got my fingers underneath there holding the support like this. Go down until it gets a little too dry, and then go down. And then come in like this, and then throw your bowl out. Just that simple.
Yeah.
And you go ahead and you go ahead and take a look. See that I have just a little bit more to go. So you have an option. You can pull a little more clay up, or you can flatten this out slightly. If you flatten it out, then the butt will pop up a little bit, and so it will sit higher in your thing. If you like the idea of a really deep well lid, whatever you want to call it, then that's fine. What you'll do is you just grab a little bit more clay up here, squeeze that in there, and you pull that lip up a little bit more, and do it in little increments like that, and you'll see that we are perfect. Now when I said earlier you want to make it a little bit bigger, I always like to make it a little bit bigger because if it's too small you can't add later, and then when you fit it into the side of the thing there's going to be a gap between the edge of your lip here and the edge of the lip of the pot, and that's not terrible, but it's better to have it nice and flush and nice and tight because it's so easy to make it flush and tight. So make sure that it's a little bit bigger than it actually fits in there.
Don't you think that's too deep?
Personally,
is it deeper than?
Yeah,
like
this
that?
one is now.
Oh.
My point was you have that option. You can make it deeper if you want to, because aesthetically there's very little rules that go along with it. All right, but physically and all that kind of thing, you go, well, you don't want it too deep because of the fact that if it's really deep like that, it could bend in a little and then fall in even further. Plus, I don't necessarily require that much, stuff to be in there, because who knows what people would want to put in there. Maybe they want to put something in there that will require it to go all the way up. Okay, so yes, my personal feeling on this whole thing is that it should be out about like that.
Of course, then you have to make a big pie.
No. Yeah.
You can future it.
Yeah. So then you go along and you go, okay, well, I gotta.
For like a French onion.
Sure.
I don't know, I like cheese like that.
Like a pile the concave.
Yeah, well, you pile it on, then you put that on the syrup. That means take it to the table.
Never touch your pot when it's not moving.
I didn't touch my pot when I I did.
So how do you know the angle of that is the same as the
It's
angle
not.
of, yeah.
It's not.
So
If you care about such things, then you'll have to go and kind of guess, and transfer that angle like that. So if I was to match that exact angle, I would need to bring this up just ever so slightly like that.
But you would never see that unless you're on the inside of the bowl.
You wouldn't see it that much. This is not a truly steadfast functional lid. This is quick, easy, pretty, the whole thing. Because if you were to take this thing and go like this, hey, you want some sugar? The lid could slide out.
Right.
Now there's some things that you can change to keep that from happening. And that is that you can actually make this thing divot in a little bit and come up, and then the bowl will sit into that divot. It will come up and then down. But that's version, that's version 2.9. There's all different kinds of versions of right side up, handle attached type of one-piece lids that go into vehicles like that.